Laura Lee asked me to talk to you a little bit about my background in marketing, which is basically prehistoric. It goes back to, and I did it completely wrong because I started out doing it without having any foundational study of it. I was an undergrad history major. I have a master's in French literature, which of course is extremely useful in almost every aspect because Proust doesn't save your life. But I did start off, started off with a marketing company right after I graduated from grad school. But my marketing experience started a little bit before that because before I went to college, I was a professional dancer in Europe. I was 17, and I worked in this very kind of third-rate opera house in Belgium, and I was the only American, and I was the youngest. And I learned real fast how to sell myself. Not physically, you understand, but, but how to get people to notice me and to speak to them in ways that reach them where they were, because it's really hard, because most people spoke English of a kind, but it wasn't like fluent, so you had to sort of peel back your jargon, and you had to explain things that you wouldn't have to explain otherwise. And then I was a dancer, so that has all kinds of vocabulary that you sort of start to work with in a physical way. So there are different ways of expressing yourself, as you know, the French wave their hands, that kind of thing. So there are all kinds of ways of marketing that we're all doing all the time. And by the way, marketing is fun. So that's the first thing that we need to learn about marketing, is that this is the fun class. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. So after grad school, I worked for a French publishing company trying to explain French pedagogical theory and these incredibly dense textbooks to US high school French teachers, which was another real experience in marketing and communications, because it was extremely challenging, and that company did actually bail out of the US after a while because they realized that this was just not a good match for them with the help of some of my data. What are you thinking? They're not there yet. I continued to work in various kinds of performing arts marketing and communications until, as I think I said last time that I saw you all, I saw the light in 2006 and went back and got my Green MBA and have been working since then in sustainability. But I find myself still in marketing and communications almost every day, which I enjoy and I love, but it is still having the similar challenges of meeting people where they are, dialing back the jargon, using other gestures, and trying to see what works, because marketing is constantly about testing to see what works and what doesn't work. So since graduating, I've also gotten more into social media consulting, which is obviously just a form of marketing, so Facebook, Twitter, that kind of thing, both for sustainability companies. I had a 4-month contract with The Natural Step. I worked with the Green MBA. I currently, my 6-week contract with San Francisco Opera has just entered its 14th month. So they're enjoying learning about social media. They're the best client of all time because they actually listen to me, go away, and do stuff that I ask them to do. It's just awesome. I mean, they're the best. And then I also work a couple of days a week with a company that works with local government agencies working in the environmental space. So how can we propagate sustainable behavior around water use, waste reduction, these kinds of things, both with businesses and with consumers? So it's always an interesting test to see what works and what doesn't. And how do you even measure some of these things, which is really challenging. And to that end, I'll get started on this in a minute, but I just wanted to say one more thing about marketing is that, in my opinion, it is not a science because it involves all those pesky things called human beings. So when I say there are 26% of consumers feel this, or 33% of people will do that, those are approximations. You know, that's what it feels like this today, or when that survey happened. But I had a very interesting. I went to an interesting lecture last night with a Czech economist, very, very serious. It was the economics of good and evil, and it was very, Czech. But he did come up at one point, and he said, as economists, we all work with this idea that there is a rational consumer who is driven by reason. I haven't met one, but that is how we base our work. So I think, and marketing is a little bit like that too. We assume that people will behave in a certain way, but they're constantly surprising us, and that's a good thing. So tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about what is green marketing. It's a huge gamut of things. We won't get to all of them, I promise you. It's only 3 hours. We'd need years and years, but that's fun. We'll talk a little bit about green consumers, people who purchase. And my green here, just as a reminder, is a stand-in for what we call triple bottom line. So mostly people who embrace both environmental and social values in their purchasing. Social marketing, which is not social media, that's a different term. Social marketing is about diffusing behavior change, which is very important for some of us here in the room. And marketing greenly, so looking at your tactics. How are you reaching the people you're reaching? And are you doing that in the most sustainable way possible? And we'll do a couple of good group exercises, I hope. And at the end, we'll talk about our action planning for the next session. Any questions, comments so far? Am I talking too fast? Okay, you can say, because I get excited. I mean, marketing is my thing, right? So I'm going to start going. Yes. Excellent. Fine. We're already self-organizing. I love it. So what is marketing? What is marketing? Marketing is the process of purveying people, getting people to buy your product or service. You know, that's what they teach you in school. Marketing, in my opinion, is about creating relationships and filling needs. Now, some of them may be needs that people didn't quite know they had yet. But that's basically what it is. If you can approach it from that point of view, and what am I doing in this tactic that will create or further a relationship that is very human-based, will usually help you get in the right space. So marketing is a whole bunch of tactics and channels and things that you can do. You know, what is your overall brand? You can do direct marketing. You can do graphic design, online marketing, packaging, etc. The world-famous 4 Ps. How many people have heard of the 4 Ps of marketing? Okay, so the 4 Ps of marketing, and I will do this really fast because I was a marketing director for 10 years before I'd even heard of them, so it's not that, you really do know, this is just a little structure that they give. Price, so how much you're charging for it, your product, what it is, place, where people find it, and promotion, how you get people to find it, you know, how you communicate with them. So it's no big deal, it's just somebody will say to you, well, you did the 4 Ps, right? And so now you have, okay. Price, product, placement, and promotion. But we're going to be talking more about green marketing, which again, depending on who you're speaking to, has several different permutations. You can be marketing to green consumers, and we will talk a little bit about what makes a consumer green, their demographics, psychographics, that kind of thing. You can be marketing a green product, a product that is good for the environment or that improves social value. You can market green behavior, which, as we talked about, was diffusing, like getting people to recycle more, or use less water, or turn off the lights. And you can market greenly, so again, changing your tactics. We will touch upon each of these things. We won't get in too deep on all of them, but I just wanted to make you aware that when people say green marketing, it can be all kinds of different things. So, the green marketing conundrum, which is my name for the problem is that often green marketers have to kind of apologize for what they do because often what we try to do, or what some green marketers try to do, is get people to buy more stuff, which is kind of antithetical to where we're trying to go in terms of a steady state economy, in terms of, you know, there's a finite world, finite number of resources, so the more stuff you buy, the less there is going to be in the long run, right? It's not ultimately renewable. So consumption did get us into this mess, and marketing is all about consumption. However, not everybody's going to stop buying stuff right away, and some people you can change what you buy to make the world a better place. So it's just a tension that we have to live with, and in environmental and social marketing, tension is what it's all about. Now, when it goes a little bit too far, we get the concept known as greenwashing. How many people have heard the term greenwashing? Okay, no 4 Ps, we know greenwashing. Excellent, that's much more important. Okay, so greenwashing is the deceptive selling or deceptive tactics around getting people to buy things to make them think it's more clean or more green or more just than it actually is. And you know, as I'm sure you know, some terms are regulated as to what they mean, and some terms are not. For instance, natural. Oh, it's all natural. What does that mean? Legally, it doesn't mean anything. You know, I can take a box of Smarties and say, hey, this is natural, right? I mean, it's made of sugar. It's sort of made from sugar. Comes from the earth. It's natural. So you know, you can go too far on these things, and people do. And the good news is that consumers tend to be able to sniff that out. So maybe if you're marketing something and your competitor is marketing something and they're saying they're greener than you, eventually that will come out, hopefully. So because people are very critical thinkers, and they're talking to each other, and they're thinking, I don't know if this sounds right these days. So it's a good movement for consumer justice. Oh, the Huggies Pure and Natural are disposable diapers, which, as you know, is kind of a burden on the earth. And what makes them pure and natural, according to their advertising, is that there's organic cotton in it. It doesn't actually even touch the baby. Actually, sort of the outside of it is made of organic cotton. So it's a kind of problematic thing. So I just wanted you to be aware that talking about green is good, but being authentic in what you're saying, not overselling, is the most important thing that you can do for green marketing.
So what was the bun versus the fork?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for reminding me. Okay, so that's sort of the diversionary tactic, right? So that was a detailed infographic about which is the greenest way to eat a hot dog, by bun or by fork. It's a cute demographic, a cute infographic. It goes on about the life stream of how the wheat is grown and it's shipped and all this, and then the fork is a precious metal. It's taken out of the earth. So it goes through all these things, calculating calculating all the sums, and I think it comes up with bun is better. I don't really recall, but it's kind of sidestepping the really material question, which is what the heck are you doing eating a hot dog? So it's like, where do we draw those lines? And that's a question of materiality, is what we call it. And I'm sure actually John Lemon will probably refer to materiality a lot when he talks about metrics. So how intrinsic is it to your product? Okay, it's like, well, I put this little bit of organic cotton around the outside, so it's okay. Well, you heat it with a fork, it's fine. No, you got to think about those things. So this is a repeat of a slide from the first presentation, which of course you've all memorized, right? And I just wanted to draw a linkage between the business benefits of sustainability with the marketing benefits of sustainability, and particularly the ones in red, though it's kind of hard to see. Brand value and reputation, risk management, and direct financial impact. Those are three of the ways that you can start to approach a consumer, okay? This is our value. We are safer, risk management. This is a better product for you. And you can save money in the long run by going solar, things like that. So these are some of these arguments around going sustainable work across the board for explaining the sustainability of your business and speaking to clients when you're selling a product or service. This is one of my favorite slides. Hopefully I'll be able to, sorry? I know. It's not visually, but mentally, it's one of my favorite ones, because marketing is not just about marketing in the day. It's about preparing yourself to dance with the future client, the future customers, at the same time that you're dancing with the current ones, right? So there are some things to think about as you look at how you are marketing that will be helpful, especially down the road. If you're not thinking about them now, you're probably going to want to think about them going forward. So one of the ones, which I think we're all vaguely conscious of, is that people have really short attention spans. It used to be we read 19th century novels in French, say. People don't do that too much anymore. So now we're getting down to 140 characters. And we can either bemoan it or we can struggle against it, but in general, it is a trend to be aware of. So sometimes, almost always, less is more. And one of the things I tell our students in the Green MBA is my favorite rule is, when in doubt, cut it out. Do you really need all those words? Look at it carefully. Think about it. Are people going to get it faster if you take more out? You'd be surprised. The other thing is an expectation among consumers for interaction and transparency. People expect to be able to talk back to you, right? And they expect you to be clear with them about your practices. And I think we're seeing that all over the country now with the Occupy movement. People are saying, hey, I don't think you were quite upfront about this, Mr. Bank of America, or whoever it is. No, nothing against Bank of America, but that there's an expectation that we get to talk to you and you have to answer us back, which is much more. And aligned with that is this changing relationship to authority. There is more of a distaste for expertise, not distaste, but a distrust for expertise than there used to be. Great example from one of my own sort of businesses is in selling classical performing arts. It used to be the reviewer was king. Oh my gosh, well, Mr. Cosman of the Chronicle has said this is an excellent production, so of course we all go. this is changing. This relationship is changing, and you will see a much bigger bump in sales from a positive Facebook post that goes viral than you will, or blog post, than you will from a positive review in the San Francisco Chronicle these days. And my understanding and my research has shown that this is actually true across the board of many, many segments of the economy. Another one that I think we all probably know about is resource constraints, which are probably here to stay. By that I mean time and money. Not just your time and money, but the time and money of your consumers, of your customers. So being aware of that, being sensitive to that, it's not that you're not, but echoing that in your tactics is a useful thing to go. Coupled with that is a rise in the interest of do-it-yourselfness. There's a huge increase in the number of people who are learning how to make jam, how to preserve fruits and vegetables, how to repair electronics themselves, that kind of thing. So that is something also that may help many of you in your businesses, that you can encourage people. Knitting is gone astronomically huge lately. All of these things about making stuff, and that's partly a Gen Y phenomenon as well, sort of this next generation coming up. But it's also, they like to make things, the structuring, but it's also a need. That I don't want to call in somebody, I want to do it myself and save the money, or save all this extra produce so that I can have it during the winter. The importance of community, which is also tied into the changing relationship to authority, and this is something that we've seen in the rise of social media, which I hope we'll talk a little bit about more later. So the importance of feeling a sense of belonging, not necessarily physically in the same place, but communities that get created in the ether, as it were. And this is actually a quote from an article in this Sunday's New York Times about, I hate to tell you, the decline of purchases of some green products. I know they mentioned the Clorox Green line, and among others that are declining because as people become more resource constrained, they are very sensitive about spending more. So one guy was interviewed and he said, well, I used to buy Method because I like it's organic and it's good for the environment. I liked how it smelled, but it's super expensive. So now I found a recipe and I make my own cleaning fluid. Okay, so it can be, and the marketer's response was, it's like buy nothing day all year long. Okay, so some retailers can be struggling with this, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room know full well what that's about. However, on the flip side, they sold 4 million Apple 4S's in 3 days. So somebody's still buying something, right? So there is still a market out there. We just have to be smart and resilient about the way we sell it. So who is this elusive customer person? Who is this person? Well, the most important thing to know is that most of the time she's a she, okay? 85% of all U.S. consumer spending is controlled by women. Okay, maybe it's 86, maybe it's 82, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot. So, and it's products that you might not think about. Women purchase 65% of all new cars, and they have a lot of leverage on the ones that they don't buy themselves. Don't kid yourself. 93% of all food buying decisions. Women 50 plus, the boomer generation in particular, control $19 trillion in personal wealth. So there's a lot of thinking that needs to go into that around how you position whatever it is you're selling, whether it's a behavior or a product or a service. Remember the ladies, okay? And that doesn't mean that everything should be pink, right? Because not all women are the same. I hate pink, but that's okay. So she's got influence, she's got friends, and women talk to each other. Not to be cliched about this, but we communicate. That's how our emotional satisfaction comes about, by communicating about each other. And with any luck, you can get them to communicate about your product or service. And she does value authenticity as a rule, which we'll talk about a little bit more. Now, who is this elusive Benicia customer? So how many people in the room physically or ethereally sell something to Benicia consumers? Okay, this side of the room. Okay. So this is actually I lifted this from the City of Benicia website. How many people are familiar with this? Okay, a couple of you. So we can go into it a little bit. There are millions of ways to segment consumers. They've all got these cute little titles, and there's, you know, everybody's sort of limed down. Well, you know, if you have a history degree and you speak Latin and you watch Friends on TV, then you're this kind of label. So there are lots of those. But I think these might be helpful to those of you thinking about selling to Benicia. And I'd also be curious to know if you think it's accurate, because they say the top 3 primary segments are actually all quite similar. Upwardly mobile, successful suburbanites who are very conscious of fashion, the latest home design. Almost all of them have active leisure activities. A lot of them go out to museums and theater. Suburban, the in-style is suburban with a slightly more urban lifestyle, computer savvy, again, very active in sports. And then the so-called urban chic, which is a little bit even more, slightly more upscale, travel frequently, computer savvy, NPR listeners, I love that, that sort of puts a picture in your head right away, and active civic volunteers. So those of you who actually sell to Benicia, do you think this is an accurate portrayal of the majority of Benicia consumers? What do you think?
I see a dichotomy.
Right, right. So as I say, I think it sounds like a great opportunity to say, you know, the whole buy local thing is like, oh, you don't buy local yet? Oh, that's kind of...
For Berkeley Bowl, what do we have here that is local?
That is easy, yeah.
I mean, other than farmers
Yeah, the farmer's market, right.
Once a week.
Well, people should plan more. It's true, it's a conundrum. Was there one more question before we go on? Okay, so that's a little bit. So again, this is not saying that everybody at Benicia is like this, but this is just to give you an idea of at least what the Census Bureau is kind of saying lives here. So another way to think about consumers, rather than the 727 little labels about people, is a labeling system that was created by Ray and Anderson, Ray and somebody Anderson. And they had a book called The Cultural Creatives that came out around 2000. And they sort of divided the US population into 3 large segments. And I have found this actually quite helpful in messaging to different people. And it's also a great thing because it can help you see how your messages can be just slightly tweaked and really reach out to a much broader audience. So the dominant one at almost half is called the moderns, okay? And the moderns are people who are, it's a little bit like the previous slide, the urban chic, right? They have to have the latest and greatest thing. They're deeply into technology, deeply into fashion trends, deeply into home design. They travel a lot. They want the latest stuff, and they like lots of buying, okay? Deep belief in fashion, deep belief in technology, and deep belief in progress, okay? There's nowhere to go it up. We are climbing. It's going to be good. They're probably having some little intellectual pushbacks at the moment, given the economy, but that's okay. The traditionals used to be a majority in our population. They are now in decline, mostly because they can sort of be. And again, I'm speaking in great generalities here, so please don't take any of this to heart. They tend to be that the greatest generation, people who have a deep respect for tradition, deep respect for history. Somewhat conservative social values. However, they also have a deep respect for nature. So again, there are ways to, they tend to, they don't all, I mean, some people have an interest in hunting. So that there are ways of reaching people whom you might not think would be into green, that they have values that stretch across, that there are values that stretch across these different segments. And then there are, this of course was the title of the book, because the idea was that this is terribly exciting, the cultural creatives, who are people who tend to be in, as it implies, creative pursuits. They're interested in spiritual development. They are interested in authentic experience. They tend to reject brands, and they tend to reject political labels. And this is a segment, actually, it was in 2000, it was supposed to be 27% of the population, and when he updated his survey in 2008, he said, oh, it's up to 35%. So 27, 35, whatever. The idea is that this is a segment that is growing, and I think we've seen this, again, in some of the rejection of don't call me this. I'm my own person, and I want a real experience. And I'm pushing back against the corporate brands that are the corporate marketing that's sort of bombarding me. So that's kind of the relationship to marketing that we need to bear in mind. So, Here, I wrote it all out for us. So traditionals, moderns, and cultural creatives. What did I leave out? Strong gender roles of the traditionals, very much of the sort of old style division between men and women and labor and that kind of thing. Deep beliefs in product, money, so a deep respect for money in the moderns. Again, supposedly their numbers are declining. And the cultural creatives, which supposedly are taking over. Again, this is all about people, so it can change tomorrow, right? Idealistic, motivated by spirituality, and the idea of equality. Exactly. Yeah, your attitude toward money. Yeah, just because you have a respect for it doesn't mean you're not in debt. On the contrary, it actually means often you are. But that's the way it goes. So I just wanted to share with you before we get too depressed about sales of products of green going down and that kind of thing. This was from Ray's 2008 updated survey. And again, take these numbers with a great big old grain of salt, okay, because you can find others that oppose it. But I just think it's interesting. Again, in terms of messaging, 87% agree that we need to treat the planet as a living system. That's an interesting question. I mean, this is not a market research class. I personally find that a really weird statement to ask people about, but it's all good. It's all good. So there is something there about messaging that we may be able to use when we're selling green products. 81% agree that corporations must take more responsibility for their impact on global warming. So that's an interesting topic. And again, this is 3 years ago. Who knows how much that has changed, if at all. 75% agree that people need to work for the good of the planet, for it is our only home. Most people will not disagree with that. But then again, home, planet, we're sort of seeing some ways that we can talk to people who, maybe for traditionals who value the home and value the home in the larger concept. There may be some ways to make connections there. 62% agree that the Earth is headed for an environmental catastrophe unless we change. I am not advocating fear-based marketing, but perhaps it has its place sometimes. So anyway, so these are just some quotes to keep in mind. It goes on. There's lots and lots more, but just wanted to give you a flavor of what he said. So again, as Janine said, the point of this is figuring out to whom you're speaking and trying to tailor your messages and segment your targets. Yes?
That was a national survey?
Yes. Yeah, and actually, interestingly enough, he found relatively little disparity among regions. Slightly, as we would think, East Coast, West Coast, blah, 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 but actually much less disparity among regions than he was expecting. And it may be something about how the questions are asked, including words like home, and responsibility will really resonate with some people who might not consider themselves green. But yes, you have to take responsibility for your actions. That's the kind of thing that can resonate. So you have to see, as I say, it's just a survey.
It says the impact on global warming. Well, first of all, you have to have that many percent of people believe that there's global warming happening.
Exactly.
And with the experience that I've had, that number's way too high for people actually will accept that.
And that's the problem with market research. People will say anything. There's the need to sound smart, or that you can sort of adjust what you're saying to please. People would tend to want to please what somebody's asking. I'm not saying it's accurate. I'm just saying this is what they're saying. How can we use this, work with it, test it, and see if it works for us in our situations? And again, of course, this was in 2008 when there was a lot more. It was a lot more favorably viewed. There was a lot more of Al Gore and Inconvenient Truth and COP15 that was coming up. So there was a lot more coverage in the press around global warming than there is right now. It's really gone down lately. So yeah, I'm just putting it out there, saying this is something we may be able to work with.
Is there, this may be detailed for a 6-week class, but are there things when you're saying they put on a product, I wouldn't have known to know that the outside of the cotton that's organic is on the outside of the diaper. I remember in the last few years it's been food, like things could be light if the color of them was light. Mm-hmm. That's how it was legislated. So I'm just a regular person and I'm trying to decide if I don't want to make my own cleaning fluid. Are there ways or things that will let you know, or is that going to be a brand recognition that you have faith that Clorox or any of those people? Is that what it comes down to?
I think it definitely comes down to that. I mean, I think there are also communities that are forming around informing each other about these kinds of things. The Environmental Working Group is doing a really good job about getting their messages out, EWG. Environmental Working Group, about getting their messages about. They're very calculated. Every 2 weeks or so, they put out another report about a particular product and what you need to look for, and this is the list, and this, oh yeah, that's the organic cotton's just on the outside. So, and they've established a database of cosmetics, and they employ, interestingly enough, Environmental Working Group was one of the first to employ really crowdsourcing. They would say, please go to your local store, take a picture of this kind of label and upload it to us so that we can put it in our database and start developing these kinds of huge product databases that we keep track of. So that there are definitely efforts around informing people, and people are starting to be, people are very concerned. This is basically what Consumer Reports has been doing forever, right? I mean, in its own way. So there are ways that the public can be informed, but that's not to say that people won't try to get around it in some way. It's human. It's human.
Question.
Yes.
Is your
Larry.
Dropbox going to provide us with all this background material?
All of what? All of what?
Well, I didn't get this yesterday because I guess it was too big for my service.
It's already up there.
The
Dropbox.
PowerPoint is
But the
uploaded.
Dropbox is where we can get all this stuff if we can't get it through email. Is that
Right.
right?
When you say all this stuff, did you get the
Well, like the reference to the article that you were...
Okay, so I'm just talking right now, so that I didn't, but I'm happy to speak to you afterwards if you're interested in that article. But I have, most of the things that I've cited are in the notes of the PowerPoint, so if there's a link back, they're usually in there. Yeah. I did, EWG is not in there because it just occurred to me, but I'd be happy to go over that. Okay? So the other thing about meeting people where they are is not assuming that everybody thinks the way that we do. So when we were looking at ads, we looked at this and, oh, it comes in a wide variety of colors except green. That's reserved for your neighbor's face. That's cute. What does that have to do with the environment? I don't understand. Why are they using the word green and it's not environmental? Sorry?
Envy.
Yes, exactly. It's green with envy.
And they're making fun of the greenies.
Are they?
Yes, they are.
You think so? Okay.
No, they're not. I know this product.
They're not making fun of it?
No, that's an electric four-wheel drive vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So the point is that we have different, as you can see, we have different points of view that will take that in a very different way. And again, this is why testing your tactics is so important, because you want to make sure that somebody reads that, understands what you're really saying. And in writing in particular, humor is the hardest thing to bring across. I mean, I know we try it in advertising all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But just wanted to let you know, just to be thinking about that. Just because you're saying green and you mean something doesn't mean it's going to be taken that way. I had a lovely conversation in Houston when I was actually teaching marketing, now that I think about it, with a lovely older lady from Louisiana, and she was very charming, and she's, oh, what do you do, dear? And I said, oh, I'm a green MBA, da-da-da. And she nodded and smiled and nodded and smiled, and at the end I said something about environment. She said, oh, you mean about trees. I thought you were talking about money. I had been talking to her for 15 minutes. She had right over, my fault, right? Totally my fault. But just to show you, we come at the world with our little lenses close up to our heads, and we just forget. So it's what I tell everybody when you're putting together your marketing, particularly for classical music, it's not about you. It is not about you. When you are putting collateral together, it is about your customer, what they need to know, not what you want them to know. Okay? What do they need, not what do you want to tell them. Clarity is key. But I'll assume, maybe I shouldn't assume, I'll assume that you gave them a reason for why they wanted to do that. You were involved in some sort of persuasion, right? Which is what marketing is about, yeah. Absolutely. And actually, as we go forward, yes, that's one of the things you want to look at is, have you given them a clear thing to do, and have you been clear? And sometimes just saying the word green, not so clear, right? Okay. So, however, to dive a little bit deeper into the green morass, you will probably at some point in your lives, how many people know the word LOHAS? Okay, good. I'm very happy to hear that. It is LOHAS.com. It's in the PowerPoint. It's an organization that does research and holds conferences and stuff about the quote-unquote green consumer, which they have segmented into various subsections. So there are people who are concerned with a sustainable local economy, for instance, for the buy local. There are people who are concerned purely with healthy living, so I don't want those chemicals in my body. People who are more interested in alternative medicine, personal development, ecological living. So they've done these little segments. There's a lot of interesting research there. Again, it's very fluid. The generally accepted The generally accepted idea is that low-cost consumers are basically 1 in 4, so 25% of American adults, kind of closely aligning with the cultural creatives if you actually compare it, and that it's a marketplace of $290 billion. Maybe it's 295, maybe it's 272 today. However, the idea is there are a lot of green consumers out there, and the question is how to reach them. However, they are not a monolithic green. And there's another marketing place that says, well, there's light greens and medium greens and dark greens, et cetera. So it's just like when you're talking to women, you don't always use pink. Just when you're talking to a green person, you don't always use, the leaf kind of thing. Was there a comment?
LOHAS, acronym?
Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you very much. That's good. Keep me on track. Lifestyles of health and sustainability. Lifestyles of health and sustainability. Okay. So given these people, and we've kind of talked about this already, what are some of the green consumer motivators? So if you are trying to reach those green consumers with your product, what are some of the messages that can work? Health is really primary, particularly for women buyers, families, children, etc. It's a really key message for people. It's the one that's most often used. Legacy. Are you going to leave the planet in a better state than when you found it? Are you going to leave it in a better state for your kids? Are your kids going to have a better life than you are? That kind of idea. Justice, value for your community. Saving nature is very big for a segment. Being cutting edge, being kind of chic. Green is cool, whatever, dude. Go out and get another tattoo. It's very green. So, whatever. Or it's the value of it's the right thing to do. This is all good. It's all good. It's just like, who are you trying to reach and what will they respond to? So we just have to be flexible about that. These are all great arguments and great things that we'll be looking at in our messaging. However, these days it's all about careful choices. Do I buy method or do I put vinegar and water in a bottle to clean my floors? It's about experience over stuff. And that's actually really good news for green people, for green sellers. And it's about small luxuries because depending on who you talk to, they've shown in some reports that sales of expensive coffee is still stable or even going up, whereas sales of penthouse apartments are going down. So you can't afford the big sales, but sometimes you'll treat yourself with the smaller luxury items. So that's just something to consider. So sometimes even very green brands do not always lead with green. This is the home page. Don't worry about the words. It's fine. It's just to give you an idea of Innocent, which is a UK brand. It's very, very sustainable. On the front page, this is their home page. There's really nothing here that says, gosh, we're super green. Don't you just love us? Oh, they do have something there, a daily thought about the waste. But basically, it's win a trip of a lifetime, choose your destination. We have a tasty banana juice going today. This is on the interior. They don't lead with green, but they have an interior page that, if you're looking for it, goes into great detail about their green initiatives. And they go everything from ingredients, nutrition, packaging, production, and socially profit sharing. So they support various causes and that kind of thing. So just because you don't lead with green doesn't mean you shouldn't have that information accessible somewhere and very clearly laid out and, of course, very authentically laid out, because we don't want to be greenwashing. So the next couple of ads are two very different approaches by landscaping companies. And again, it's kind of depending on where you are and who you're trying to reach. So this is In Harmony, Sustainable Landscapes. They're at Puget Sound, Washington. It's kind of a green area. And they are putting that right on the front page. This is one of their mission statements. We're a sustainable landscape company serving the Puget Sound region. We provide design, installation, and care of landscapes that are healthy for people, pets, and the environment. Healthy, notice. Very good selling point that goes across different ways. Some people don't shout about it. This is in Central Florida. It's called Florida Friendly Landscapes. And they have, Florida, land of flowers. They have all kinds of places to go. They talk about beautiful landscapes that both enhance the value of property and help to preserve the natural beauty of our state's fragile ecosystem. So they're kind of working it in there. But if you click on a couple of these tags, you get to where they're talking about their green services. Okay, in this case, we also use flowing mulch, a sustainable mulch made from the melaleuca tree. Ask about these services. So you kind of have to search. But that's what they know their market. Central Florida is fairly conservative, but they are concerned with, in Florida in particular, you come against the fragile landscape every day because the water table's dropping, there are all kinds of issues with sea level, and your beaches are getting eroded and all that kind of thing. So there is an awareness, but it's not what you would call a deep green consumer base. So they're hedging their bets, they're giving their messages, they're being clear, but they're not always leading with green. So this is my second favorite slide. This is something that I use every single day when I'm evaluating every tactic I use in a campaign, because we are not machines. We don't see a fact and then go do it, right? We are people. We have mind, body, spirit, heart, all that kind of good stuff. Every time I evaluate a tactic, I say, is this appealing to a whole person? Thinking, feeling, and action. Are you giving them the facts? Are you making them feel something that makes them want to do it? And are you giving them a clear action, a clear way to do it? Okay? Thinking, feeling, and action. It's just a whole person experience. It's not the least bit woo-woo, and it really, really works every time you're evaluating everything from a website to a brochure to a campaign. So and there's, oh my God, that's a lot to do in a couple of words. Well, I think this ad is a perfect example of thinking, feeling, and willing. Will you abandon her to this poor little doggy looking at you like, oh my God, my heart just melts, right? Feeling. 60 cents a day can give second chances. That's all. It's 60 cents. That's a fact. Okay, we will feed this dog for 60 cents a day or whatever it is. Make a monthly gift. 1, 2, 3. It's easy, right? This is all you have to do, and they've made it as simple and clear as possible. Now, this is placed in a website where they know that there are people who go. It's from Care2, actually. They know it's a place where people concerned with animal welfare go. They've been very clear, and I understand that this is a very successful campaign because they're trying to get a monthly continuing gift, which is very useful. So thinking, feeling, and action is one of the best ways that I know to evaluate your tactics. Yes?
Nancy, I just wanted to point out the case study or the experience of leadership and energy and environmental design lead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they sort of stepped in a few years ago. There's a lack of a national standards and code for facility construction.
Mm-hmm.
And LEED stepped in with the point of view that they would create a national standard, which they have done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based primarily on the concept of sustainability or green, and they backed it with a sense that it's a higher level of quality construction.
Right.
And it's fascinating to watch. I'm sure you've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fascinating to watch the development of the LEED standard worldwide. I mean, now it's been adopted in regions throughout the world, and you can see it in public agencies. Last week I had a conversation with a group of people from the Cal State University system, and they were bragging about and trying to focus on how many of their facilities were in the LEED review process. And it's that whole marketing concept
Mm-hmm.
that the LEED, the United Green Building Council has done is really push the fact that there was no national.
So that's LEED, LEED Certified Building, yes, from the USGBC. So I'm happy to say I will stop talking very briefly. It's time for you guys to look at some ads, okay? And so we are going to divide up into 7 groups in a moment and just look at some ads, and we're going to discuss what is, or this is in your groups, what is or are the messages, who's the target audience, for instance, is it cultural creatives, traditionals, moderns? How could it be more effective? Because we got some dogs in this pile, let me tell you. Okay, so we want you to think critically about how you could make them better. Okay, and then to try to magnify from that to maybe if you have some time afterwards to talk about who is your target audience really, and how are you structuring your messages. So if you could share that with each other to see what your success stories are, and maybe what you could be doing better from this, okay? There is something I call clever designeritis, which is where, the designers go off and create these gorgeous images, and they're fantastic, and they're very visual. They make you look, but they're not always effective at getting the message out. Sometimes they are, but not always. Yes?
Right on that same tree, we had the Dow.
Uh-huh.
And it was beautiful. We never could figure out what exactly they were trying to do. But it was a beautiful, the Dow, could you show them the Dow?
The down one, I developed a whole.
Okay.
It's the one with
for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
You'll
yeah,
get
we
access
can
to
put.
all of them. Who had this one? How did that one do?
My personal opinion is that the Earth should go up there in the corner as opposed to Coke, because the Earth is what we're trying to say.
This is a call this game?
Well, WWF.
Tic-tac-toe.
Tic-tac-toe, yeah.
Tic-tac-toe. And all it is a tic-tac-toe. It's a WWF, World Wildlife Federation thing, and it'll be worth looking at. So that'll be up there too.
So but I want to lead on to that is that not only do people have different perspectives, people learn differently. People look at things differently. I am a word person. If I see a word and an image or a chart and an image, I immediately look at the words and I ignore the image. Laura Lee, complete opposite. She will look at the... So we were explaining the ads to each other as we were grouping these together, because she got all the visual ones, and I was like, what the hell does this mean? I do not understand. And then she was like, I don't know what Publix is. I said, well, it says it right here. So you people, and you need to take that into account too with who you're trying to reach. In general, less text is better. Especially these days, go back to our trends to watch. People have short attention spans, so when they see a big old block of justified text, it's going to be a lot harder to get them to read it. Sometimes they will, but they have to be really motivated, right? Okay, good. Any other last observations about ads? Was this useful at all for your own messaging?
Yes.
Yeah? Good, good. It's always fun. I mean, and now that you start doing it, you sort of do it, oh, that's for the traditionals. Cultural creative ad, you just sort of, it gets kind of sick. Yeah, and they're not always clear. Maybe they don't know, or a lot of people, there's designer-itis, there's also hedging your bets. So if they're trying to, appeal to the broadest thing possible, and sometimes when you try to appeal to the most people possible, you don't hit anybody, right?
Well, we looked at one ad, the 311 ad.
Mm-hmm.
I think we kind of figured out that it appealed to all three groups, but in different ways, really cool ways. So like visually it was more of a moderns, and then ecologically it was the cultural creatives, and so it was an interesting ad because when you started talking about who it appealed to, and you started looking at all the different groups, it appealed to people in different ways, but it didn't bang anybody over the head with it. It was a good ad.
I'm glad you like that, because that's one that I purposely chose, and I actually spoke to SF Water this morning because I wanted a higher res version of it, but I said, now have you done any studies? I didn't realize that it was really about reporting water quality issues. To me, I thought it was trying to get people off bottled water and onto tap water. So, okay, that's fine. That was just my interpretation, but my question to them is have you done a case study? How successful has this campaign been? And she said, we haven't tabulated yet. We don't know, so stay tuned, maybe in the spring. But I think it's a really interesting case study, because I thought what you did, that it appeals to a broader range, and it may or may not be effective at what they actually wanted to happen. So, yeah, good. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about messaging. And what I'm going to do now, just briefly, I won't spend too much time on this, but if anybody is interested in what I'm talking about, the Diffusion of Innovation is a book that came out, Diffusion of Innovations is a book that came out in the 60s by a guy called Everett Rogers. It's in the PowerPoint. And he's a very interesting man. His background is in public health. And he was interested in how you can propagate better health practices in both developing countries and in developed countries where sometimes you don't have common languages, and how you do it, how you can spread innovation through a society in the best way possible so that more people get vaccinated or wash their hands, all that kind of thing. And what he discovered is that there are stages of innovation that are common across almost all decision making. So I won't spend a lot of time on this. It is a little bit theoretical, but you might want to go back the next time you're trying to plan a communication of some kind and say, well, what am I trying to do? Am I trying to make people aware of my business? Am I trying to, they already know about me, am I trying to give them more facts to persuade them to do something? Are they at the decision point? In which case they've had the awareness, they've had persuasion, they can either go yes or no. So they make a decision and then they implement it, right? They do whatever it is. And then there's that phase where they feel comfortable about telling other people about it. That's the confirmation stage, which ideally we would like our products or our services or our behaviors to get into. So it's just an idea of thinking about a decision-making process.
Nancy, I just wanted to point out that the diffusion of innovation method was used initially to promote the California energy efficiency efforts.
I did not know that. I'm not surprised.
The first series of programs in 2006.
Great book. It's huge, but it's got a lot of nice little stories about what works and what doesn't. And it's old, but it's still extremely effective.
It's very effective,
yeah.
particularly in the energy efficiency
Yep, I think, and probably others too. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So everybody goes through this awareness, persuasion, decision implementation phase. They go through it at different rates and at different points in the time of a diffusion of an idea. So if you have, for instance, who was it who first put solar panels on the White House? Jimmy Carter, right? It was Jimmy Carter, right? Somebody took him down, exactly. So the point of that is that the innovation was not ready to be diffused quite in that way, right? So because there was not enough, nobody really, I mean, I complained, but some people didn't complain when they were taken down. So Jimmy Carter could be described as an innovator, but he was not, unfortunately, in this case, enough of an early adopter thought leader to get that message out into a broader diffusion, right? So there are innovators who are the people who come up with these ideas. They're very prone to risk. They don't care. They're just going to try everything new and be damned if it's successful or not. Those are great people to have. They're great people to know. They're not always successful about making their idea or this product go forward. Okay, that lies mostly with people, what we call the segment called the early adopters. Those are kind of the filters for ideas. They take an idea, solar panels, let me think about this, and they have awareness, and then they sort of think about it a little bit, and they research it, and then they tell their friends, because early adopters in that segment tend to be very connected, networked, and trusted as authorities on whatever. They have a lot of friends, if you want the truth. It then will spread from early adopters into what we call the early majority, and they are influenced by influencers. And then there are what they call, and this is not meant in a pejorative sense, as Mr. Rogers is quick to say, laggards, which are the people who are resistant to change. There are people who are uncomfortable by it, and that's fine. There will always be people who are the last to adopt, but they will be the most resistant. So here we have a little bit of a chart that just describes that for you. So the idea launcher, the opinion leader, somebody who needs to think about it, who adopts but does not lead. Late majority tend to be skeptical. They will adopt due to economic reasons. They've heard, everybody's saving money on these solar panels. Maybe I better get in on the job, right? Or peer pressure. Oh, Jones down the street has solar panels. Maybe I should get solar panels. So think about that. And then there are the laggards who tend to be like, I don't want the solar panels. Those are kind of weird. It's kind of funny.
You should remove the word local from the laggards now, because local focus is actually very innovative.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And I think it's probably local in the sense that they are not really aware of the world around them so much, but it's sort of more like between their doors. But you're quite right. Yeah, you're quite right. Okay. So I just wanted to start before we break with an example of, this is a company in Sweden that does social behavior change. And this is not a particularly, I guess it's sort of green, but I just wanted to play this video. I hope it works. If it doesn't, don't kill me. If it doesn't, we'll...
Yeah.
Not yet.
All right. So that's just an example of diffusing social behavior, making people aware of their options and saying, hey, it's kind of fun, look at this. There are lots of other examples of that. There's one, there's an anti-obesity campaign in, I think it's New York or some subway system where If you walk up the steps, it plays tunes, because they're trying to get people to walk up the steps instead of taking the escalators, and you see people playing tunes and just going up and down the steps, up and down the steps, and it really does start to make people think about what they're doing in a different way. So this is just an example of social behavior. So with that, I just wanted to stop for a 15-minute break, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more. Okay, so 15 minutes.
We have.
Oh, and there. We'll just continue with a little bit more discussion and then have a group exercise. It's a little bit more structured than the one we just did, a little bit longer, but get you guys out of your seats shortly. But before then, of course, there's always a little bit more discussion, and I will wait a moment before I ask my next question. So this next section is more about figuring out, looking at the tactics that you're using if for whatever you're trying to sell, whether product, service, behavior, etc., and to evaluate it. And most of the time we evaluate things by measuring them, okay? And we live in a fantastic age. I am here to tell you. I used to purchase newspaper ads and send out gobs and gobs of direct mail, and I had no idea usually, well, not always, but I often had no idea how effective it was. We now live in a time where I can see exactly how many people opened my email blast, what they clicked on, where they went to, how long they stayed. I can see how many people like me on Facebook. I can see how many times something that I have tweeted, how many people have had the opportunity to see that tweet amplified across a huge network, and whether or not they've come back to me from it. So we live for marketing. It's the golden age. It's beautiful. It's an absolutely gorgeous time because we have many more ways of evaluating and measuring what we do. Now, the only drawback to some of these wonderful metrics is that we tend to believe what we measure. We don't always measure the right things, or the things that are most aligned with what we need to know. So just because you know how many people like you on Facebook, that might not tell you exactly to what degree they are familiar with you, whether they're going to engage any farther, and all that kind of thing. So just because you can count it doesn't mean it's useful. So I want to put in that counter as well. But it is wonderful that we have this opportunity. So there are various ways of green marketing. I just wanted to refresh your memory. You can have green tactics for your marketing. In other words, you can move away from mailing postcards or catalogs and into email. Obviously, this will save you time, money, and give you that added benefit of more feedback. I should say, I think I did not say this at the beginning, that I am from the dark side. I ran a catalog company in the 90s that dropped, I am not kidding, 500,000 catalogs a year in the tiniest, most nichiest niche of all time, opera video. Okay, 500,000 catalogs a year. I dropped. They were 48 pages. I wrote all the copy myself. And and the waste, you can imagine the waste from all those. I mean, I would just, and I wasn't particularly, I mean, yeah, I felt pretty guilty going to the mail house at that point, but it's what everybody did. And you go to these gigantic conferences, and Williams-Sonoma is there, and they can tell you exactly how much the top right-hand corner of page 3 brought in March through April of 2001. It's an extraordinary science that they have developed around this, but it is all based, a lot of it is based, or at least it was in those days, of wasting a whole bunch of trees. So hopefully we're moving away from that. So there are green tactics that you can employ. There's green strategies that you can use to broaden your business, right? So if you already are selling something to a certain sector, you can either introduce a new green product or try to talk about your product in a way that is green and authentic. Or you can go the whole hog and completely do a green redesign and remake your product, your service, or even your business model in a way that is more aligned with environmental and social values. So I just wanted to, slight refresher from session 1. Yes?
Can I embarrass you? Or
sure.
Put you on
Oh, why not?
Just annoy you whenever you prefer.
Yeah.
I am a big believer, as I said, in
the tactics, because it does. Marketing is inherently, it's less about doing less child labor and more about using less stuff. But you are absolutely right that you're redesigning your business model may indeed involve being fair trade oriented or examining your labor practices or that of your suppliers. You're absolutely right. Yes. Sorry?
Equitable to your employees.
And how you treat your employees, of course. Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. But I'm going to get back to collateral because it is a marketing class just for now. So I gave you I won't call it the triple bottom line, the triple threat evaluation for collateral, which is thinking, feeling, and action. And this is a little bit of something that I use to evaluate websites. It's just a 1, 2, 3. What is this? How is this working? Design, functionality, and content. And before I talk about that a little bit more, I want to know how many of you operate a website or have a website for your business? Boy, we're really split with the two sides of the rooms today. That's kind of strange. And business can be, you know, the city that you're involved in. You know, almost everybody has a website. So of those people who work with or have a website involved in their business, how many of you are really happy with the way it works? Great, good. Well, then I'll just skate right through this then. Okay. So again, I do recommend looking at a holistic view, design, functionality, and content. So not just how it looks, but how it works. How many times do you have to click a button in order to buy whatever it is or to ask for more information? And then the content. You know, are you clear? Are you direct? Is it well organized? And are people looking at it? And we live, again, in a wonderful time where we can look at all that. We know exactly how long people stay on our websites, where they go, what they do, and this is really valuable feedback for how you can do better.
So how would you evaluate this one as far as content and presentation?
How would you?
Well, based on one of the ads that we reviewed, and there was the one with the leaves and the content with the bags and about, it does, you know, besides the headings, you know, like I look at events and promotions. I would think events and promotions should be popped out and bulleted out. I have to read 4 or 5 sentences to get to whatever the events and promotions are versus what is it I want to pop out or have it rotating or whatever. So I mean, that's just my initial evaluation of it.
It's definitely a little text heavy. And I mean, and the goal, of course, is to have as much as you can above the fold so that people get a full view of the range of where they can go without scrolling. Right? So there are various ways of it. But I agree with you. There probably are ways that they could have made it pop more. I don't know anything about this organization. I think it's fine. I do think it has the look of something that was designed by committee, which is often, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but that there are many interests that you need to serve. Like I've got to have the shop, the dine, and the stay, and they all have to be represented in that top. It's challenging. It's challenging, and I'm not saying there's one easy answer. I think it's probably perfectly fine. I don't know how effective this website is or what its purpose is. But I just thought it's quite pretty, and it's relatively clear, but I agree there's kind of a lot of text going on here. It's not totally clear where you actually want to go first, but it could be some bet hedging, as we say. Okay. So we talked briefly about websites. I can talk forever about social media, but I will try to restrain myself. But I wanted to get, again, a sense of you in the room, thinking back to those trends that we were talking about in terms of low attention span, in terms of need for community, in terms of less attention paid to experts and more to your friends and referrals and that kind of thing. I wanted to ask, how many of you use any kind of social media in your work? What do you guys do over here? No, I'm just kidding. How many of you have some link with a professional, an organizational Facebook page?
For our business?
For your business, yeah, for your business. Good. How many of you have a personal Facebook connection, for a personal Facebook account? Interesting. Okay. How many people use Twitter, either professionally or any other way? Interesting. Anybody use YouTube for their work? Okay. Okay, so let's stop there. How many of you are interested in knowing more about using social media in your work? Okay, well, we'll just whiz right through this. So just sort of 1/3, 2/3. I will whiz through this to some extent, but I do want to let you know, just emphasize a little bit. Again, percentages, but 78%, the vast majority of consumers trust peer recommendations, 14% trust advertising. So where are you putting your promotional dollars, and are you getting the biggest bang for your buck that you can be getting? So I encourage you to think about that, given what we know about target consumer markets, how they're approaching authority, and things like that. So I think this might be running down. Just to stress, for those of you who are wondering how to behave online as part of your as an organizational account, anybody who asks me, I don't know if it's okay to do this in social media. The guideline I give is it's a party. It's a 24/7 party. You can be a good party guest or you can be a bad party guest. Good party, what is a bad party guest? A bad party guest, there are all kinds, right? There's the guy who stands in the corner and just sort of looks around at people, okay? That's called a lurker, okay? That's a bad party guest. They're not really helping to animate the party. There's the person, the woman who goes, I. That's probably not going to get invited back, right? That's kind of a bad party guest, okay? And then there's the person, the guest who comes in and says, hi, I do this. Oh, that's interesting. Have you met this person? This is very cool. Let me get back to you. And you were saying? Oh, is that what you, conversation, introduction, networking are what you kind of want to be online, okay? So ask yourself the next time you're wondering what to do on Facebook, is this what a good party guest would do? Assuming you're clear on what that is. Because when most people make mistakes in using social media, they treat it like a big old bulletin board. They just put up what they're doing, like, go do this. Yeah, we're doing this now we're doing this, now we're doing this. And then they're kind of surprised when there's not a whole lot of engagement or interaction, okay? So just rule of thumb to be going on with. I won't spend too much time on these channels, we can or not. This slide is in the PowerPoint you can download. I can just want to say that some of the ads that we were looking at, I think it was this group here that had the gardening ad. They were saying, now why do they have this free this giveaway? They're giving a contest. Will they give away a free kitchen garden or something in return for your information, right? So that there are ways of bartering for your information for this initial contact for customer acquisition that you can do online. In other words, in Facebook for 7th generation, you have to like them on Facebook before you can go to their site. But if you go to their site, they are not saying 7th generation, 7th generation, 7th generation. They're putting up articles about health and wellness. And of course, there's a little bit about what they do. But they are once you get into the party, it tends to be more party-like. Okay, so there's just some examples of how to use it for engagement. It's also a great way to examine your business in context. Twitter is a fantastic way to keep up with thought leaders in your field because it is used by people who want to influence others. So that's why Twitter is extremely useful, not to mention the fact that it is an extraordinary mechanism. I'm sure you remember the earthquake that hit in Richmond, Virginia last month, I think it was. The tweets about that earthquake hit New York City before the aftershocks of that earthquake hit New York City. Okay, so before the wave of the earthquake got to New York, the wave of the tweets got to New York City. That is how effective it can be. It's an extraordinary, extraordinary tool, and I encourage you to look into it if you're ever interested. It's got some good things going on. The other thing that you may not know is that YouTube is the second most used search engine after Google. It is the #2 most used search engine. So if you have a product, service, or behavior that lends itself to visuals and you are not using YouTube, you are probably missing out on an opportunity. Okay? I will take a moment to tell you this story, whether or not you like social media. I think it's a great story, and I think it shows that the unexpected can truly happen. So this guy here is, his name is Zach. And Zach and I were in the Green MBA together. Zach's really kind of nice. He's a surfer dude from Santa Cruz. And he's really great, very smart guy. He did some video work at UC Santa Cruz. But he graduated, and what he really wanted to do with his Green MBA was start an organic ice cream shop in Santa Cruz, California. And he, like I, graduated in 2008, and it was, there's no money anywhere. The economy is just gone. You can't, you can go, he went from bank to bank to bank, and he had this beautiful Green MBA business plan all ready to go, and the bank said, yeah, it's nice, but we're not lending right now. He did finally get a loan through the American Recovery Act, the Jobs Act that came, the bailouts, basically, the bailouts that he got a federally government-guaranteed Small Business Association loan. And with that loan, he was able to start his business. He found a place to set up. He got all his suppliers who are local organic farmers. He hired local contractors, has local customers, is so successful he just recently opened a second store. And Zach, being kind of a nice guy, and being a Green MBA, he knows that gratitude is one of the most important values. So he said, well, I better say thank you. So being a kind of creative nice guy, he put a video together. It's a YouTube video. It's kind of, I'm not showing it to you now because the quality is so bad I don't think you'd be able to hear it very well. But it's a great video, and all he does is says, "Dear President Obama and members of Congress," just writing to say thank you. And his video goes on, "This is my partner, we've opened the store, this is how many people we hired, this is how many farmers we're supporting, this is how we are working with the community, and we just wanted to say thank you." And he uploaded it last November 10th or so. 10 days later, he gets a call. Bring, bring, bring. "Hello, Zach. This is Vice President Biden." The vice president had somehow virally seen his video and called him up and invited him and his business partner to the State of the Union address and a reception at the White House in the following month. And that video, as you can see, now has 101,000 shares, and he's just opened his second store. So,
And the quality is awful.
yeah, the quality of the video. The ice cream is fantastic.
The quality is actually awful. This video, it didn't matter.
It didn't matter, exactly. So it's not that it was so professionally or slickly deleted, it didn't have great music or anything like that. It was just heartfelt, simple, and somehow it got to the right people. So 1, 2.
I just got a quick thing about the videos and YouTube. I was launching my boat in Clear Lake, and a lady who was the wife of the fishing partner took a video of not me launching the boat. I launched the boat, but I was there to pick the boat back up. So I'm backing the empty trailer down, and she took a video of this, and she entitled it "Launching a Boat" and sent it into YouTube. She got over 200,000 hits.
Wow.
How to or how not
And
to.
now they send her a check because they advertise on the same page. She gets royalties, and she gets a check for $100 every month.
Awesome. Yeah, nice. Absolutely. So
And it's not even, and most of the people who write in are complaining and saying, "This is not about launching a boat, it's an empty trailer."
Interesting. Well, so that was slightly inauthentic, but interesting. Yeah, absolutely. There's all kinds of opportunities out there. Yes.
Just reminding me of this, my daughter had a friend who's a new filmmaker and had to raise some money to make his first film, and he did it all through a YouTube presentation that was sent to everybody he knows, plus all their friends, and everyone could send in $100 or $200, and he raised enough money to make the film, which is now up for some awards at some local film festivals.
Yeah, there's a website for that, for creative products that you're trying to, it's called Kickstarter. How many of you have looked at Kickstarter? Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And not every project gets funded, which is sort of the market speaks kind of. It's kind of an interesting model, but or it depends on how many friends you've got. But it's a way of giving a whole lot of people an opportunity to support something that they might not have heard about otherwise. So yeah, there's lots of interesting stories about it.
I have to say this, because all this goes on YouTube, and I've been an early user of YouTube, so I have over 70,000 views on various films about bird rescues and things like that. But because I have so many video up, I have been given the honor that exceeds receiving the Bronze Star and the Presidential Medal. I now have unlimited YouTube time on my channel.
Wow.
It's a very powerful medium, and these, our first sustainability series, had views all over the world, from Saudi Arabia to the Philippines to Canada to France, England, and Germany. So, what we do, it has a tremendous reach. Now, I haven't monetized it yet. Why, I don't know. That's my next step.
All right. The world is flat, right? Yeah. Great.
I was reading something today, this is kind of an aside, but that most people don't realize that the world is about to get its entire first brand new country, and it will soon be the largest one on the planet, and that's Facebook. And it is the first one that has technology as the common denominator of its citizens. That's an amazing thing to realize that it's up to 800 million or something people, and soon will surpass virtually every country in the world.
Right. Yeah. It is. It's incredible. We live in interesting times.
That's only Facebook.
Exactly. Good. So I encourage you to look into social media. I won't talk any more about it now. It's paining me, but that's okay. But it's an interesting phenomenon, and it's not going anywhere. I mean, the actual channels may change. 5 years ago we were saying, "Oh, MySpace, that's the place to be." If you're trying to sell your music, you got to get on MySpace. And now, of course, that's changed. So you need to be resilient about your channels and constantly measuring their effectiveness. But and it is indeed an exciting development. And so that brings us to measuring impact. How many people know what this is? Screenshot of? Really? What is it?
Isn't that on like Facebook, seeing how your ad did?
It's not Facebook. Close, though. It's Google Analytics. It's Google Analytics. So I just want to speak briefly about what I call the goo tools, okay? And I do not work for Google, and they don't pay me, much as they should. Lord knows they got the cash. But I do want to just put in a plug for three things that I use on a daily basis that I find very useful for messaging, testing, and measuring. So the first thing is the easiest, and that's Google Alerts. If there is a term that you're interested in, or a phrase, for instance, solar power Benicia, you can enter that you go under google.com, and there's a little place where you say add an alert, and you say send me an email, and it's usually every day. It will look, so you don't want to enter something like solar. You want to be fairly specific, otherwise you'll get like tons and tons of messages. But it will send you a message every day and show you every new web page that has gone up or new comment that has something to do with solar power Benicia. And if you're researching, or if there's a topic that you're interested in, or if you're checking on how often a name is used or anything like that, it can be a very useful tool. It's obviously free, and it's just very simple to use. You just enter it once, and you can turn it off if you get sick of it, or change it around, whatever. So that's Google Alerts. The next one is Google Analytics, which is what I made reference to in talking about the amazing amount of information that we can get from our online, from websites, okay? So this is just one tiny part of one of about 50 screens of information that Google Analytics gives you for no cost about your website. And if you have a website that you are using for your business and you are not using Google Analytics, I really recommend you start. Because you can spend a whole lot of time and money. Oh, I'm going to put up this page, or I'm going to start a blog, or I'm going to do this. And if you're not checking on how useful it is for your strategies and your objectives, it's not going to pay off for you. But you can also take advantage of thinking, wow, Facebook just sent another 500 people to my site this week. And that's up from the previous week. What did I do right? How did they come? And are they actually doing something useful, or are they just coming and bouncing off? How long are they staying on my site? What browser did they use? There's all kinds of information that you can get and tailor your tactics around that. So you can try Facebook, or you can try Twitter, or you can try an ad with an online ad on SFGate or Contra Costa Times or whatever. And you can see just exactly how effective that is, not only in terms of people just coming to your site, but what they do once they get there. You can really follow where they go and how long they stay. And this is pretty crucial information, because managing a website is no joke, as I'm sure you know. So that's Google Analytics. Highly encourage you to try that out if you haven't. If you want to install it, what happens is that Google generates a tiny line of code that your web person, whoever sets it up, needs to embed on your home page. It's fairly simple. I don't do it myself. I make somebody with technical expertise do it. But it's really not that complicated. And then you'll get these. You can just go on there at any time and check it out. So that's Google Alerts, Google Analytics. And the third thing that I have had a lot of luck with my current customers and clients is Google AdWords. So you can purchase advertising, very, very targeted, wonderfully targeted advertising. I want to show up in Richmond, but not in Albany. I mean, it can be that targeted. When somebody enters these words, I want my ad to pop up if they're in Richmond, if their computer is in Richmond, their IP address is in Richmond, but not if it's in Albany, or if it's in San Francisco, but not Oakland, or something like that. So it can be incredibly targeted. It's usually, unless you're looking for something very popular, very inexpensive. I often set my standard budgets at $3 a day, $5 a day, and it can be an amazing way of testing keywords, of looking what people are searching for, so that you get in front of the exact kinds of people that you want to get in front of. So and again, I'm not compensated by Google. I'm not saying it's the only strategy to go, but I think still a lot of people are not quite aware of their power and how really targeted they can be. Facebook has advertising also. I've done a lot of testing. I have found Google AdWords are more effective for my clients. You may find something different. But again, it's a very tiny amount of monetary risk for some potentially very useful information. So measuring the effectiveness of advertising, if you will. And it doesn't have to be like buy this product. It can be, you know, recycle here, or testing recycle versus use again, or, you know, testing the use of messages and language that can be really useful for very inexpensive, almost like market research, right? It is market research. Okay. Any questions on the GOO tools?
Just quickly, so you say alerts and analytics are free?
Yes.
But AdWords?
It's you're buying an ad, so yes, there is a, yeah, it's like any other ad. And for the moment, it's inexpensive. We'll see. Could go up.
I just have one comment.
Sorry.
I know a lot of political campaigns are using, I've used them in campaign, politically, I could Google AdWords.
Political campaigns are using them? Mm-hmm.
Quite a few of them. I actually just used some recently, and it's pretty effective.
Yeah, good, interesting. Yeah, so yeah, you can market pretty much anything that way because almost everybody you're trying to reach is going to be online. Not everybody, but a whole bunch. Okay, so now we're going to go into the introduction for our final group exercise, which is to create a SWOT. How many people know what a SWOT is, a SWOT analysis? Okay. That's fine. We'll talk about it briefly. I know there is one in this sterling document, the Benicia Economic Development Plan.
I don't know how many of you were involved with that economic development. Was it a session, Constance?
It was an all-day session.
I can tell you,
All-day session. And they put out a pretty, I'd like to hear, a wonderful document. And part of this document, they have a SWOT. They have, we're going to go over today. They did a SWOT, which will explain to you why you would use it, for Benicia. And they did it for Benicia's commercial base, for Benicia's industrial park, and for Benicia's tourism downtown area as examples. So this tool can be used at that high level, or it can be used at a very much lower level or smaller level. So this tool has already been used, and you can see it. We'll stick this up on our Dropbox too, so you have access to it. So if you've already been to that meeting and already know what a SWOT is, our apologies for going over it again. And if you don't, then we'll make sure you have access to this Benicia-specific information at that broad brush level. Okay.
So I'll be brief. It's actually it's pretty intuitive what a SWOT is, but it's just you know, it's one of those sort of, you know, business typey thing that you say, but it's really it's a very good just sort of filter to run your ideas through as you're preparing to move into your action plan, right? So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay, so the positive and negatives about your business, your idea, your plan, both internal. So the strengths and weaknesses are internal factors that either help or hinder your objectives. And opportunities and threats, which are the external factors. So those things that are kind of beyond your control, all right? But still very, very important. So for instance, and this is just a very tiny example. So say you ran a green landscaping company. Some of your strength might be that we have a really dynamic, well-known CEO who, you know, when he appears on television ads, everybody knows who he is and thinks he's gorgeous, and they want to go to him. So that's a dynamic, well-known CEO would be an internal strength, right? A weakness maybe, we don't got much cash flow right now. Okay, so that's an internal thing which supposedly you have some control over, but that will definitely affect your goals moving forward. Externally, you can have an opportunity. For instance, the new Parks and Rec head is green friendly, so that's a real opportunity for growing your business. That would be a huge contract if we could get it, right? So that's an opportunity. And a threat might be something along the lines of competition. Oh, this local garden store is offering they're saying they offer exactly the same thing that I have, so how can I differentiate or deal with that threat, right? Threat, okay. As I said, internal strengths and weaknesses are the things that you have control over, and external opportunities and threats are the context in which you must operate, right? So there are lots and lots and lots of factors around there that we'll talk about more when we get into systems thinking next time, but it's everything from regulatory issues to cultural, social, political, anything technological advances or changes, anything that can change the success factor of your business or your activity that you're trying to do, okay? So this is how we would create a SWOT. You can do it in a box or any other old way. So you have strengths and weaknesses on one side, and here's some more examples. Access to capital. These are all internal skills, your team, your intellectual property, that you have, an image or brand or the longevity of your business. We've been around for 10 years. We have some name recognitions. These are internal, so strengths or weaknesses. And opportunities and threats, as I was saying, social, economic, cultural, environmental, regulatory, technological, political, all kinds of factors that could affect the success of your venture or of your action plan. Okay? So, that said, we're going to set that aside for a moment, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what we'd like to do moving forward with your action plans, because the SWOT is going to feed into your action plans. But then in a few minutes, when I finish talking about that, and which is what basically your homework is, we'll then break up and do our exercises and or do our not our jumping jacks, but our an exercise together that goes back to talking about SWOTs. Okay, so I'll review SWOTs in a moment. But so your action plans. How many people in this room? One of the goals of this entire workshop series is to have some kind of generative action. Either it can be either personal, professional, or community-wide that you can put into action that is helped by this series. How many people know what that would be in their minds? What would your action plan be? Okay.
Tell us. We'd like to know
Yeah. We don't need to know. We just need to. And it can be, greening my own business, or it can be helping my community recycle more, or it can be I want to change my light bulbs. There's on a whole gamut of plans that it can be. So this is good. So this is the world is our oyster. We can be very creative in thinking about what we want to do. So. I just wanted, so your action plan can be as simple, as I said, as a change of tactics or a full business redesign or a community redesign, for instance, or something in between. Normally, I would suggest, and all this is suggestion, that you would include some kind of timeline, because it's really good to have some kind of end date, all right? Timeline, how you're going to measure success, which implies already that you have a picture of what that success looks like, which I think is really important for any successful plan. And a budget, okay? Whether that budget be, I got this many hours a week, or it can be I have this many thousands of dollars, or whatever it is. So it doesn't have to be a lot of money. It can be also time. And as I mentioned, start with a picture of success and work backwards, which I think is a really good systemic way to get to where you want to be, okay? But if you're not sure what that is yet, then we'll have to do some thinking between now and next week, which is fine. So, just wanted to give some examples of objectives, strategies, and tactics, which is what we would put together for an action plan. And again, these are just words, but just sort of, listen to the concepts. So your objective is the broadest thing, and that is the goal or goals that you're trying to achieve. And it's usually quite specific. For instance, I want to increase my sales by 15%. That's a pretty clear objective. So your strategy is, how am I going to do that? Am I going to increase my sales by 15% by charging my current customers more, or am I going to get more new customers? So those are different strategies. So those are the strategies that you would employ. And then the tactics are the actual things you do. So I'm going to get new customers. Well, how do I do that? Oh, okay, well, I'm going to partner with this other company, and we're going to launch a joint campaign so that we can cross-sell to each other. Okay, so that maybe that will cost a certain amount of money, but that will get me more customers. So that's the actual tactic that's something that you can attach a timeline and an amount of cost to, estimates, okay? So the objective, the larger objective, ironically enough, is most effective if it's extremely specific. And the acronym that we use is SMART. So if your objective is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So I want to increase my sales 15%. Is that a SMART objective?
Yeah, sometime in the next 20 years.
Okay, right. No, it's not quite there, because I didn't say I want my sales to increase by 15% by next Tuesday. Those and that's not even a SMART objective, because that is not achievable. Okay, so that's where the relevancy comes in. But yes, okay. Are there any questions? Did I see a hand? So, okay. So again, this is just a framework. You can download this and talk and think about it. But I highly recommend any kind of action that you're trying to put into place, any kind of plan. If you think about your objectives in terms of being specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, it will really help you move forward and achieve more, they say. So these are two examples of what that might look, a filled-in grid, an action plan grid might look like. Again, you don't have to do grids. It's not, this is just for presentation purposes and to help you see. One is a very sort of sales-specific focused one, and the other is an operations-specific one. But yours can be, I want to increase employee satisfaction by a certain percentage, or I want to have my employees rate me on a scale of 1 to 5. I want to have 80% rate me on a 4 or above in the next year. Okay, so those are you can have any kind of goal that can be somehow measured, but that can relate to either your operations, how you're working socially, how you're working in your green self, whatever it is that might be. And in our case for this series, we're hoping that your goals are in somehow related to the full spectrum of sustainability, but that's up to you. Okay? So an example of an objective, generate 25% growth in units sold in FY12. Is that smart? No?
Yes,
Could be. Yeah. It could be. Exactly. I mean, we don't have the context because this is just an example, but supposedly if this is relevant and if it's realistic, yes, hopefully that would be. At least it has specific numbers, specific timeline, it's clear what it is, units sold, etc. So you can have a couple of different strategies. We can either, well, as I said, we can either upsell our current customers to get them to buy more, or we can get new ones, okay? And then you apply tactics to that. Where are my potential customers? Well, maybe they're at Green Festival this year, so maybe I should have a presence at Green Festival. Oh, okay, well, let's send the marketing manager to Green Festival. It costs $1,500, I made that number up, to have a table at Green Fest, and hopefully that will get us more customers, okay, and get us up to that 25% growth in sales. See, so it just sort of filters across. And so a second example would be, I want to save 25% of the energy costs without impeding operations in January through June of 2012. So what does that involve? So one strategy might be replacing outdated equipment, and another might be encouraging staff to conserve, right? So a sort of operations one or a human-related one, right? And so you can have different strategies, different tactics, people responsible. And here I just expressed it in time, though obviously for most businesses time is money because you have to pay these people to do it, as you should. Or you can express it in the dollars that in hard costs, right? Design and production, that kind of thing. Okay? So that's kind of what we're thinking about your final action plans might involve. And again, they don't have to look like this, but it's just those elements are most helpful if they're included. Okay? Are there any questions? Yes.
Where is the cost of buying the new equipment?
Yeah, it would be another
So
chat. Yes,
this
goes on and on. Yes, exactly. See, I sort of put the little dots up there, but yeah, exactly. No, yeah, this is not a final thing. No, you're quite right. You're quite right. Yes. Okay. All right. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to SWOT. So, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, because one more thing. So your homework. Sorry, I'm going to give you your homework because I never wait till the end of class to give you your homework because otherwise you'll leave before it. No. So a homework ideally is you're going to start thinking about your action plan, okay? And if you're unsure about it, or if you're still thinking about it, I would first suggest you pass it through a SWOT, which we're going to practice right now. And if you're pretty sure you know what it is and you already have a handle on the SWOT, then you might want to start using an action grid: objectives, strategies, tactics, timeline, budget, and person responsible. Okay? So it kind of depends on where you are in the process. Well, yeah, and it's frankly that we weren't sure how many people had really had their topics, so we were kind of hedging our bets till the end. So yes, but thank you. Just these three. Pick your action, SWOT it, or grid it. Okay? Okay, so that's your homework, but we're going back to our exercise now. We are going to divide into groups. And we are going to, each group is going to, you're going to self-organize into groups, but around a topic, so you have to pick whatever one you want best. So we're going to pick we're going to give you a list of topics, and we also will take a couple from the audience, as it were. And we're going to divide up, create a SWOT, discussing it, and noting down whatever you need to note down, and then coming back to the group. We're going to get together again, and each group is going to present very short, brief 3 findings. It can be 2, it can be 4, but ideally 3 findings. Not so much about the strengths and weaknesses of this particular business, but what you learned and what piqued the most interest. What was the learning from actually creating the SWOT?